Welcome to another adventure. Before the video starts, remember to leave a like and subscribe. Now, enjoy the video. Today, we are gonna watch a little bit of a video on Dr. Bright by the Exploring series. And so without further ado, let's go.
Dr. Bright. Throughout this series, we've discussed monsters, aliens, phenomena, apocalyptic scenarios, and multiple shadowy organizations.
Oh, this sound is so fucked.
Dr. Bright. Throughout this series, we've discussed monsters, aliens, phenomena, apocalyptic scenarios, and multiple shadowy organizations. But we haven't really talked about the specific people that work for those organizations.
Oh.
Most of the material you read about a group such as the SCP Foundation contains scores of faceless doctors, agents, and D-class personnel. But there are sometimes notable individuals. What would cause someone to work and continue working for an organization like the SCP Foundation? What would that kind of work do to their psyche? This video will look at perhaps the most famous individual working for the Foundation, Dr. Jack Bright,
Oh, really?
as well as other members of his family involved with the group.
One of the most famous. Really?
Jack's parents, Adam and Evelyn, were working for the SCP Foundation sometime during the 1800s. Adam as a junior researcher, and Evelyn as a medical assistant. Although Adam was apparently one of the founding members of the Foundation, if you follow this canon. Together,
Really?
they had 5 children: Mikkel, Jack, TJ, Claire, and Sarah. Sarah was stillborn, and Adam, desperate to bring her back to life, utilized several SCPs. One of these was SCP-590, TJ Bright, one of his sons. TJ was born with the incredible gift of being able to heal any injury or ailment, both physical and mental, that an individual might have, simply by touching them.
Really?
The downside of this ability is that TJ receives the injury or ailment upon himself, experiencing all of the pain, after effects, and mental aberrations that the subject was experiencing.
Oh, so it's
When
like
he was
it's
young,
absorbs
he could
it.
choose to consciously activate this ability, but after puberty, it became an involuntary effect. In conjunction with other SCPs, Adam Bright used TJ's ability to bring his daughter back to life, but she was taken into Foundation custody immediately afterwards, and soon was designated SCP-321. TJ was also taken into Foundation custody because of this, becoming SCP-590, and by this point, Mikkel was already working for them.
Having the power to heal others, but the consequences is that you are the one who gets the illness. I wonder how far you can push that. Can you push that to the extent where he can make people younger and himself older? You know what I mean? It's not like, think about it. He can take, let's say, if you have a disease, right? Like, you have cancer, right? This guy can literally take the cancer from you, right? And I presume that he can also give other people the cancer, right? You know what I mean? Maybe it's a one-way stream where he only can receive that evil things. Maybe. If that was possible, then all types of diseases he could just transmit, send it to the next guy, right? So if there's somebody who's got a D-class something, right? You can cure maybe like 100 people from all kinds of terrible diseases and then give all them diseases to one person, you know? Maybe. I don't know if that's plausible, to be honest. Because the guy is, as they say, he can't really control it anymore. He could control it before puberty, now he can't control it. I need to write it down, I need to write it down so for the SCP readings.
SCP-321 was found to be capable of recuperating from any injury at 5 times the normal rate of a human, believed to be caused by an overabundant production of stem cells. Additionally, 321 has continually aged and grown since her rebirth, and is currently 3.1 meters tall and weighs approximately 110 kilograms. She shows no signs of stopping growth, and at a certain point, her heart was reaching the limits of its circulation capabilities. An artificial heart was created and implanted into 321's body, allowing her continued growth and existence. Despite her age being at least over 100 at this point, her intellectual capabilities are similar to that of an infant, taking months to learn a simple task.
Oh,
and she's
really?
unable to speak more than nonsensical noises. After being taken into Foundation custody, her father, junior researcher Adam Bright, requested that she be removed from SCP status, but he was denied.
Now that's SCP, dude.
Personnel Director Adam Bright
No,
again requested she be removed from SCP status, and it was again denied. Much later, Site Director Adam Bright suggested that they can learn nothing more from SCP-321, and that her SCP designation be removed, but again he was denied. Finally, 05-12, Adam Bright, made a note that SCP-321 is to be decommissioned and returned to her family immediately, but he was shut down for a final time. He was told that she was not now, nor has ever been, his daughter, and that if he attempted this again, the Council would remove him. In reaction to this, Adam Bright resigned from the O5 Council, an unprecedented action as it's typically a lifetime position. By this point, Mikkel Bright was also on the O5 Council, and Jack had moved up in ranks as well. At some point, SCP-590, TJ, had accumulated enough injuries to leave him bedridden and on life support, unable to breathe on his own.
Jesus.
A single dose of SCP-500 brought him back to full health, however, and his abilities are used on Foundation personnel of researchers and above, as an alternative to utilizing SCP-500.
500?
By the insistence of Jack, TJ was used to cure several cases of mental retardation, reducing him to the mental level of a 3-year-old.
Oh no!
Jack likely did this to mentally protect his brother from understanding what the Foundation was doing to him.
That is so sad! Wait, so they forced him to become, like, not mentally there? So wait, so he could absorb other people's mental retardation? That's incredible! It's not a skill I probably would have used even if I had the opportunity, but I mean, then again, perhaps it's not. I mean, he is defined as an SCP, right? So they do all these kind of weird tests on him, and I bet they don't really actually treat him as a person, more like a thing than anything. But still, though, imagine being forced into illnesses in such a manner. Imagine that. Somebody came, hey, today, you're gonna get a flesh-eating disease on you, dude. You need to extract this thing. Oh, today, you're gonna absorb his mental deficiencies and become mentally deficient yourself. It's like, wait, what? Also, another SCP. SCP-500. I have no idea what that is. Apparently it heals, but that's all. That's all I know.
TJ now spends most of his time watching children's television shows and coloring, although he does have his moments of surprising lucidity. Which brings us to Jack Bright himself, who followed in his parents' and brother's footsteps, and also joined the SCP Foundation. Claire, meanwhile, who possesses the ability to see into the future, would go on to join the Serpent's Hand, a counter-organization to the SCP Foundation focused on spreading awareness of the paranormal.
Wait, who was that?
The SCP Foundation. Claire, meanwhile, who possesses the ability to see into the future, would go on to join the Serpent's Hand, a counter-organization to the SCP Foundation focused on spreading awareness of the paranormal.
Oh.
Jack joined after his brother TJ went into Foundation custody, and became a junior researcher of good standing. He was eventually assigned to researching SCP-963, a white gold amulet containing a ruby surrounded by 13 diamonds. 963 was discovered in the apartment of an individual who apparently committed suicide, surrounded by supernaturally related books, and was brought into the Foundation since it was found to be incapable of being damaged. Later that year, SCP-076, Abel, breached containment, leading to a large number of casualties. Dr. Bright happened to be walking past 076's containment unit at the time, transporting the amulet by hand, and was killed by Abel. A few days later, a D-class assigned to clean up the rubble picked up 963. A noticeable change went over the D-class, who began referring to himself as Jack Bright.
What?
Upon removal of the amulet from his possession, all of his higher brain functions ceased until the amulet was returned. Apparently, the individual that created the amulet hoped to gain immortality by binding his soul to the amulet so that he could possess whomever touched it. His ritual failed, however, due to the simple fact that he killed himself to initiate it, rather than being killed by some other force. Jack Bright activated the amulet correctly when he was killed while holding onto it, binding his soul to it. When the D-Class picked it up, it overwrote his mind with the mind of Dr. Bright, including all of his memories. This allows Dr. Bright to be functionally immortal, as long as someone eventually touches the amulet, whether it be a human or some other creature or animal.
That's
Since
fantastic.
the amulet is invulnerable to damage, the only way to prevent this would be to keep the amulet locked away. But since Jack Bright is a loyal member of the Foundation, he's allowed to continue to operate. However, there is a side effect of 963. If a subject maintains contact with the amulet for 30 days, their consciousness becomes a duplicate of Dr. Bright's, and removal of the amulet does nothing. Since this would allow Dr. Bright to make potentially unlimited copies of his mind, sanctions were put into place to prevent this, although so far Dr. Bright has not attempted to break this rule.
No, but why would you do that? Why would you do that? That seems so counterproductive. No, think about it. If you can make all D-Class personnel, 100 D-Class personnel, into researchers, that would literally be equivalent to Dr. Bright. Wouldn't that be beneficial for the Foundation? Am I misunderstanding something here? Sorry, I'm holding. Am I misunderstanding something there? I mean, to be fair, me personally, if I was in Dr. Bright's shoes, metaphorically speaking, I would not want to copy my own mind. I like being the only me. Having other people like me, I don't like that idea. But that still doesn't answer, like, it still seems weird in the Foundation's interest, right? Dr. Bright, exemplary, as far as we know, exemplary researcher, right? Really good. Why don't they duplicate him then? It's just his mind that's duplicated, right? So it's nothing else, and it's just a copy, right? So, as a concept of, like, if you need more researchers, why don't take one of your brightest doctors, literally called Dr. Bright? I think the man got some brains, I'm not gonna lie. Like, compare it. What is most important though, right? Think about it in those terms. What's most important? A D-Class member or a researcher? A researcher is quite valuable. At least that's my take on it. I don't know. I feel like that's a waste of resources that probably should be fixed in the future, but Regardless though, I love the idea. I absolutely love the idea. So he's practically immortal. He just have to find another person to touch the amulet. Now I do wonder, do you think it works on animals too? Like Dr. Bright can become like a monkey or like a seagull or some shit? If it touches the amulet? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it would be hilarious if he could be a chicken. Could you imagine that? If he could literally be a chicken, dude? Oh, that would be, gold. I do find it fascinating, just as a little point of a detail that was pointed out. He died by Abel, right? That's kind of cool, because we've already been introduced to Abel, so we know who the fuck that is. We know who Abel is, then. So it was kind of cool hearing a reference to it when he escaped. Oh, he killed Dr. Bright. I don't know. I found that tasteful, if you will. Because now we're starting to. I feel like at this point, we're like 20 videos in, right? With different SCPs of all kinds, and they're starting to intertwine a little bit. If you have noticed, just a little tiny bit. But I think that's cool.
So far, Dr. Bright has found no way to release himself from 963, not for lack of trying. On the flip side, the Foundation actually spent some time trying to recreate 963, eventually resulting in 963-2. All information on 963-2 has been expunged, so it's unclear exactly what it does, but it's likely not good.
Really?
Dr. Bright has so far jumped between countless bodies, including male and female humans, animals, and SCPs.
It worked! Oh,
While Dr.
SCPs
Bright's
too!
loyalty and intellect, combined with his immortality, have certainly been a benefit to the Foundation. It's also taken its toll on Bright's psyche.
Oh, I can imagine.
A tale that demonstrates some of the consequences of 963 is the executions of Dr. Bright. Although, keep it in mind, it does take place in the Broken Masquerade canon, where information about anomalies is public.
Broken Masquerade. I just gotta take a note. Obviously, it's gonna take a toll on him. Are you kidding me? Man's continuously dying and getting new bodies. Motherfucker, I'm on my first body. I'm already kind of halfway done, I feel like. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I feel I'm pretty good, you know? Now imagine doing that 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Changing gender, do it on animals, fucking chickens and shit, right? Although I will notice, I will say that it's so cool that he did it on an SCP, you know what I'm saying? Like, if there's like an SCP that's like half normal out there, like, you know, it's functionally normal and looks normal, and that could live forever, I don't know where or how, but some SCP like that, if there is, then he can literally live in physical form forever, which is kind of, I think, better than being just bound to the amulet. Now, I can't believe the Foundation actually tried to replicate the SCP. That's crazy. Replicate it? Come on, dude. You want to be bound to somebody's chest, dog? Like a little amulet? Nah, come on now. That's weird stuff. Would you guys do it? Personally, if I had an amulet, right? And it was exactly like this, and somebody had to kill you and you could live forever, would you do that? I feel like life would be cool for like 100 years, 200 years, but you know, when you're like 700,000 years down the line, it's probably not that fun, honestly.
In it, Bright is part of a team operating in the Middle East, where they are suddenly captured by armed terrorists. They possess knowledge of Bright and 963, and proceeded to kill the team one by one. However, they started with Bright, and then put the amulet on another member of the team, so that they were killing Bright each time. The rest of the team waited in horror as their associated minds were wiped and they were killed. The tale gives us a sense of how much Bright resents his condition, and in turn grows to hate himself. A consistent theme across a number of tales is Bright's deep-seated desire for release from 963, and his inability to do so. The tale Code Brown describes a Bright family reunion that occurs because of Claire's death while working for the Serpent's Hand. We see that the Bright family is large, including children, grandchildren, cousins, and so on.
They're like the Weasleys, dude.
None of them seem to get along very well.
Oh, never mind.
Mikkel seems to have fathered a large number of children in his younger days, now collectively known as the Unnumbered Brood. Evelyn, Jack's mother, also makes an appearance, and is said to sometimes be referred to as the Mother of Monsters, as she apparently spends her time creating creatures. It's clear that the Bright family is not a typical one, each with their gifts and quirks.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the Bright family is not a normal one. I mean, hello? Why was it that so many of the Bright children had so much weird stuff with them? You know what I'm saying? To be fair though, maybe it was just the one. Like the Jack who can heal others. Maybe he was the only one, and then he created the sister that keeps growing and stuff, you know. But yeah, the Mother of Monsters, man. So their mom spends her time making SCPs, man. That is so cool. That is so cool, man. I like that.
Dr. Bright has developed a reputation over the years of being eccentric, to say the least. But it's fair to say that he hasn't had the most normal of lives. Between the tragedies associated with his family and his own unfortunate situation, Jack has suffered more than any one person should. He ultimately believes in the Foundation's methods and goals, despite what they've done to him and his family, and continues to work for them, becoming the site director of a number of sites. He so far has not reached the rank of O5, perhaps due to his mental state, or perhaps because the Council would rather not have what is technically an SCP sitting amongst them.
Understandable.
This video has provided some greater degree of insight into the backstory of Dr. Bright.
Yeah, this was cool.
Certainly not a normal member of the Foundation, but is nonetheless an integral part of it.
Yeah, dude, that was a great video. Holy schnauzer, dude. What'd you guys think? Dude, I gotta be honest, I loved it. Dr. Bright, and we got an introduction to like 4 other SCPs and one story about him getting captured by terrorists. So, although we may have, you know, we might have found the thread, if you will, but we have a lot of loose ends yet. Because now they've mentioned 4 new SCPs and a broken masquerade. I don't know what that is. That terrorist thing was really gruesome, dude. I mean, it's bad enough that, you know, that all the people are killed, but essentially killing the same person over and over and over again, dude. Jesus Christ, that must be horrifying. And keep those memories of, like, you know, of being executed like that. Oh, Jesus. It's terrible, terrible. It's crazy. I loved it. Hope you guys did too. Yeah, I think that's really it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.